Hi, my name is cjrhen, and I'm a composer, I'm a trumpet player, saxophone player, and a recording engineer. I was recently awarded the Outstanding Recording Engineer at the graduate level for the Downbeat Student Music Awards. And on top of all that, I'm a huge Dorico enthusiast. Today, I'm going to kick off a series on YouTube called Dorico for Jazz Arranging. And I just thought this would be a good idea in light of Finale getting discontinued. And there's lots of people out there who just need to get going on this new notation software, and they don't really have time to just fool around and figure it out as they go. So to get started, let's go ahead and open up Dorico. You might have to do your license activation, and once that is all done, you'll get to like the Dorico start page. Once we're here, you'll have open recent, we'll have create new, and learn. Learn has plenty of very useful tools. Let's go ahead to create new, and we're going to click solo, and we're going to click solo piano. This will allow us to just be working on a grand staff. And let's go ahead and put our project title name. I'm going to name it after the series. And go ahead and put your name as the composer. And then all of these options you see here are changeable later, such as page size, type signature, key signature. I'm going to go ahead and set my page size to letter, just because I'm often printing on letter size paper, and then that way I won't have to worry about it being cropped or resized or anything later. And you can also change that in the print settings if you want to leave it. I typically change it to letter. So now we got that all done. Go ahead and click Create Project. At this point in the video, please feel free to follow along with the setup of the audio devices, the music fonts, and looking at some of the VSTs. If you'd like to get right into no input, please skip to 10 minutes into this video. We're just going to do some tasks to get our playback working, our font looking good, exploring the VST playback options a little bit, just so we know what's going on. But before all that, go ahead and click Control-S and save the project just somewhere where you'll be able to find it later. And once you're all done with that, the first thing we're going to do is get our playback device set up. So it's pretty easy. You can access this by going to Edit, go to Device Setup, and here you'll be able to see all your drivers. If you're on Windows, your ASIO drivers. On Mac, you'll see Core Audio, and you can pick your device. So go ahead and click the drop down, find your appropriate device. For me, I'm using my RME Digiface AVB interface, and that's its driver. And then if you have multiple stereo outputs like me, you will have to select the correct one. Most likely, if you have a 2-channel interface, it's already going to be correct. So once we do that, your device, it might take a second to load, second to be all good. We're going to click Close. So now we'll have some audio playback. So obviously that piano doesn't sound very good. So I'm going to go ahead and change it, and I think that's a good opportunity for me to show you guys how the VST playback works. So let's go up here to play. Up in this toolbar up here, we'll be accessing all of these throughout the series, but for this we're going to go to play to adjust our playback settings. So once we're in our play window, you'll notice it looks like a DAW, and that's because in a way it is basically its own mini, like shortened down version of Cubase, if you have to think about it, because Cubase and Dorico are both owned by Steinberg. And what this enables us to do is actually use the VST instruments that you use in your score mockups or any other thing you do in a DAW. Maybe you do beats in your DAW, anything you do in your DAW. Those instruments that you play, you can access here, and they work great. I know, I tried using VST support in Sibelius, and it was a mess. It was not worth the time. In Dorico, it's very natural. So let's go ahead and understand what this side window is for over here. So first, if you have multiple tracks here, you have to select which track you want and go to Track Inspector, and it correlates between them, right? So just like a DAW, if we had another track, we can pick it, and it gives us access to its routing. You can put effects on it. The channel, this is basically just its fader, its basic settings. But if we want to change our instrument, we're going to instead go from Track Inspector over to VST and MIDI. So click that and you'll see a list of VST instruments. In this case, there's only one VST instrument. So what's important about this is playback is done per VST, or you can have one VST and accessing different channels of it. So if you have Note Performer, use Note Performer. But if you want to just up your playback abilities and up, honestly, your whole sound that you can get out of a notation software, because Dorico is by far the best, let's play with these VSTs. So with these VSTs, you got some default ones that came with Dorico. One is the Alliance Sonic, and one of the libraries that came with it was that Iconica Sketch, and it's a very strong contender, especially when it comes to score mockups. I've actually used it in some score mockups and some short films that I've scored, and it's totally up there with the players such as Spitfire, Berlin, all those. So over here, I'm going to go ahead and add a VST. If you don't want to change your instrument right now and you don't want to mess with your playback settings and just use the preset piano that was added, go ahead and just skip to where we do note input and changing the music font. If you want to follow along, go ahead and watch my screen. So up here, I'm going to click the plus, and from here, you can access your whole VST library as long as it's been scanned, put in, and you set your VST folder if you are using VST2. Down here, I'm going to be using Contact. In my case, it got automatically sorted into the native instruments folder. Go ahead and click that. I see Contact. I'm running Contact 6 right now, and that gives me access to all my libraries. I have licensed all that. So go ahead and pick whatever you want to be playing back with. And once it's input, we're going to go ahead and close out of this, right? And go back to Dorico and select the track that we want to change our VST for. In this case, we only have one, so it's already selected, piano. We're going to go to the track inspector, and we're going to select it, Contact. So now my playback will sound much better because I'm using a much better quality VST. Sounds great. Let me switch it back to the other one for comparison. Not as good, right? So now let's say you were working with multiple VSTs in this window. What you can do is click the little settings here and you can rename it. So I'm going to rename it piano. And now you'll see that reflected in the track inspector when you go to select it. And now if you want to get back to your VST instrument to actually edit or change the patch, there are two ways to access it now. The main way is go to your VST instrument rack and click the little E to edit your instrument, and you can access Contact that way. Or if you have Contact or whatever VST you just put in selected on the track or whichever track, you can access it from there as well. This is really helpful, especially because I do a lot of big band scores, and then I might have a different patch for trumpet 1 versus trumpet 2, and maybe trumpet 4, I have a flugelhorn patch, and just be able to access all of them. And I usually put them in various instances of Contact, or maybe I'll put all my saxes in one instance. That way I can mix them all through the same bus. We'll talk about all that later. Today we're just doing a nice simple adding a VST. So now we're going to go ahead back and we're going to do note input. So come up to the toolbar and we're going to click write. Right before we get started with note input, we're going to just change the music font because we want to get that nice handwritten looking jazz font, right? So come up here to the toolbar, the main menu toolbar. We're going to go to library, which is where you can access all your various engraving settings. Click music fonts. And we're going to scroll down till we find Petaluma, I believe it's pronounced. This is the one that comes with Dorico by default, and I've been using it for years, and I've honestly come to prefer it. So go ahead and get it picked. You'll notice we get that nice handwritten jazz font that we all come to adore. Now we're going to talk about note input. So we haven't used any keyboard shortcuts yet. Now we're going to dive into using some. In the process, I'm going to be putting up all the keyboard shortcuts I'm using on the screen, but I'm going to be reading the Windows keyboard shortcuts to you since I'm on a PC. To get started with note input, come down and select your first bar and click Shift N. Now we're in note input mode. First, we're just going to be working with quarter notes, so go ahead, and it's probably already on quarter note, but click 6 on your typing keyboard, just so we are selecting the quarter note value. And let's just type a C major scale. You can do this from your MIDI keyboard, you can do it with your mouse on the screen, you can do it from your typing keyboard, and you can even do it from down here, coming down to this bottom toolbar and opening the on-screen keyboard. In my case, everything I do today is going to be done on a MIDI keyboard, so let me put that on the screen very quickly. Now let me input this quarter note scale of C major. Easy, right? So now, let's say we want to alternate between quarter and eighth note. Go ahead, select the next bar, and let's click 6 for quarter note and put a C. Now we're going to put 2 eighth notes, so click 5 for eighth note. And let's keep alternating back and forth, so let's put a quarter note F, click 6 on your keyboard, and then click 5 for your eighth notes and put your G and A. And let's just put 2 quarter notes to end. Nice and simple. So now let's say we want this to be a dotted quarter note after we already made it a quarter note. Go ahead and pick that note. We're going to do Shift, Alt, and then the arrow key to the right to extend it. Notice it automatically makes the note longer and it automatically adjusts the values around it, around your new length you put. If you didn't want that value to shorten the note next to it, click Q before you input it, and then click Shift Alt and then the arrow key to the right. What happened there was we basically set it to polyphonic mode. So instead of having our monophonic instrument or our monophonic note input, we set it to multi-note input. And this is also the mode you use for chords, and it was accessed by clicking Q. Let's go ahead and undo that with Control Z. Let's click Q to turn it off, and you can notice it's correlating over here so you know if it's on. And let's click Shift Alt arrow key to the right to extend it to be a dotted quarter again. From here, you're probably wondering, it seems like we're almost stuck to putting eighth notes and quarter notes or things only on eighth notes and quarter notes. And that's because Dorico uses a grid system. And what this allows you to do is basically almost give you different vantage points based on your subdivision to input notes. If we want to work with a different subdivision, we can actually change that. One way to change your subdivision is come down to this bottom left-hand corner and click the little eighth note and change it to whatever note value we want to input. In this case, I'm going to click 16th, and you'll see our grid changes to show 16th note subdivisions. Now you can also do that from the keyboard, and I recommend using the keyboard shortcut, and that's going to be Alt and then either the bracket right or bracket left, or more like bracket close or bracket open. So bracket close increases your subdivision to be smaller, right? More subdivisions. Whereas Alt bracket open or the left bracket key is going to put less subdivisions in there, making a larger subdivision. So let's go ahead and do that one more time so we get familiar. Click Alt and then close bracket or the bracket to the right. And let's put on our quarter notes for note input. So from here, you can see we can actually move our quarter note input like start around, but we'll still be able to put a whole quarter note. So put this quarter note on the 1E, and let's put an E natural. Notice it drew the full quarter note value, so now we just have to shorten that note. Just like we were doing before we increased it to make that dotted note. Now we're going to shorten this note with Shift, Alt, and the arrow key to the left. Now we got a dotted eighth note. Now that's not the only way to insert a dotted note. Let's continue up the scale with some 16th notes. We're going to be doing E Dorian. So I'm going to start with F sharp and ascend the scale for 4 16th notes. And to input notes, make sure you click Shift N, right? That's how I'm getting to that screen. And then pick your note input value, 16th note, which is number 4. Let's input F sharp, G, A, B. So now I want to insert another dotted note. So instead of just inserting a 8th note and then extending it by a 16th note, I'm going to actually insert a dotted 8th note. Go ahead and pick your 8th note with number 5, and you can see it correlating up here on the screen. And we're going to also press the period on your keyboard. So now it's going to make a dotted note of whatever value be selected. In this case, it's going to be a dotted 8th note. And I'm going to put a C sharp to continue up this E Dorian scale. And I'm going to insert another one, and it's already selected. We don't have to do anything if we're inserting the same note value multiple times in a row, even if there was a dotted value. Now I'm going to insert a regular 8th note, and to do that, just reselect the 8th note value. I clicked 5. You can also press the period again to eliminate it, like this. And I'm going to insert an E, which is the top of our scale. Let's listen to that. So now we're going to insert some articulations on top of this. And we'll do triplets. I know you're definitely wondering about triplets. We'll do that after we do some articulations. So this first note, let's put a tenuto under it, just because we're learning how to insert everything. This is going to be shift number 3. You can also do it with your mouse up here, but I highly recommend you learn to use your keyboard shortcut, shift number 3. Now, we want to insert a slur under these 4 notes, so you're going to pick your F sharp with your mouse, and you have 2 options. You can either hold shift or hold control and pick the note you want to slur to. If I were to hold shift, it would select the full range of notes and click S for slur. Or we can click that note and hold shift while clicking the arrow key to the right, or expand our selection to the right. So you see how you have options on this grid. We're working on that grid to easily move around and select notes with our keyboard instead of our mouse. What ends up happening is it ends up being more accurate and quicker. So now go ahead and click S again for slur. So now let's go ahead and make this note staccato. So for this, we're actually going to do close bracket or the right side bracket. Let's make our last note accented, and that's going to be open bracket or the left side bracket. So now what we're going to do is we're going to insert a marcato. Let's insert another note over here. Let's just put a quarter note B. So select that bar, or anytime you're in this note input, I just clicked Shift N. You can do it from anywhere. And you can just use your arrow keys like we've been doing to access where you want to put notes. And it moves around based on what subdivision you're set. And we've been working with the 16th note subdivision, so you have to click 4 times per quarter note to move. And it clearly reflects on this screen. From here, let's insert an octave down E. And let's make it marcato. So for this, we're going to click our apostrophe key. So let's play this back, and you'll hear the playback reflected. So now, let's keep extending this line, and let's learn how to do some triplets. For now, we're just going to work with 3 8th note triplets, and then we're going to do 3 quarter note triplets, ending on another quarter note. So in here, just click somewhere in the staff you want to edit, click Shift N for note input, and use the arrow keys to navigate to where you want to input this. It's good to get used to navigating with the keyboard in Dorico. Go ahead and select what value we want to input. I'm going to select an 8th note, and then I'm going to select tuplet with my mouse. So now we can insert 8th note triplets, and you can select any type of tuplet value we'll cover later using the popovers bar. For this, we're just doing triplets, and that's the default when you click that key. So from here, let's just arpeggiate up E minor. So everything is already ready, selected, and it's already set to our 8th note triplet. Let's just input G, B, E, and then let's insert some quarter note triplets. So to do this, click Shift N where you want to insert them, or you can use the arrow keys to navigate to where you want to go. And then we're going to pick our quarter note value. You have all these different values, right? Click 6 for our quarter note, and we're going to do the tuplet again. So click the tuplet. And now we're all set to input our quarter note triplets. I'm going to put a G, F sharp, E, and now let's just put a nice whole note at the end, just so we get used to that value. That's going to be number 8. Let's end on a minor major. Sounds great. So note input is pretty intuitive in Dorico because it's just lightning fast. Once you're working on the keyboard, you just want to get used to navigating with those arrows, and anything you were inputting anywhere else, promise you can do twice as fast. So let's continue inserting some articulations here. Let's go ahead and pick this triplet. We have 2 ways to do it. You can either pick and hold Shift to pick the ending note with your mouse. I'm going to use the keyboard. So I pick my first note, Shift, over. You're holding Shift while clicking those arrow keys. I'm going to click S for slur. Let's make these all tenutos. So pick them however you want to pick them and click Shift 3 for our tenuto. And then on this note, we're going to do an accent, which is our open bracket or the left-hand bracket. So next, we're actually going to wrap up this video because I'm editing it. As you can see on my screen, I'm realizing it's pretty long. So in the next video, we're going to touch on dynamics and working with the side panel. I'll also show you fermatas and bar lines. And then the video after that, I plan on showing you how to work with rhythm notation and slash notation. That way we can start to make some combo, big band scores, and lead sheets. If you liked what you saw today, please leave a like and subscribe. This is my first real YouTube video I've ever made, and I'm trying to set a goal by next August to get 500 subscribers and just keep making this really kind of niche composer content. I plan to do videos on some of my arranging I do. I will also be doing mixing videos based on my strategies and techniques I use that help me win the Outstanding Recording Engineer for the Downbeat Student Awards. Thank you again for watching, and if you have any questions, comments, or requests, please leave them down in the comments. I'll make sure to get back to you. Thank you.